right, here we go. OverDrive off and running. TSN 1050 on the TSN app, your home smart speaker, and up on TSN 4. Bryan Hayes, Dog, Jeff O'Neill, Jamie Noodles McLennan.
Amateur hour over here for me.
Everything okay over there?
No, I mean, I was sitting there, and you and I were talking, and then I'm like, okay. Mic's turned around, headphones not plugged in. Like, it's just... And you got a haircut today.
I got the haircut. Yeah, I'm all dialed in.
I did,
I'm ready
too.
to go. Your hair looks phenomenal.
What you call it? All dialed in?
Yeah, that's correct. I'm ready. I'm ready for today, tomorrow, Trade Center, because Trade Center, I do a lot of stand-up side profiles.
We had a Jerry's percentage yesterday. Does that Tampa trade raise to the level?
Oh, of course. That's a 7 out of 10 today.
I just got to tell you, Hazy, your voice coming in, you sounded a little bit irritated. Is there something that hasn't happened that's bugging you, or
are you suggesting that the Maple Leafs have not made a transaction in
I
get
a sense of vibe off of people, sometimes just by the sound of your voice, and it was almost like you were not saying, hey, everybody, this is OverDrive. You were like, the Leafs haven't made a god darn trade yet.
Well, listen, I do find it quite interesting that those teams down in Florida, who I will remind you, have represented the East in the Stanley Cup Final 5 years in a row.
That's true. I did, yeah.
5 years in a row. 3 years in a row in Tampa and the last 2 in Florida. The Panthers go out there and acquire Seth Jones. And now today, if you're just tuning in, Oliver Bjorkstrand and Yanni Gourde are on their way from Seattle to Tampa. And Tampa paid a serious price. They gave up multiple first-round picks and the Maple Leafs second rounder in 25, which is sickening to see on a paper trail, that the Leafs are helping Tampa acquire these assets. And I think the first-round picks are top 10 protected, so there's some conditions there. And it's a hefty price. It's a hefty price. But you look at it, if you're Tampa and if you're Florida, this is the luxury of having won before, where you can just keep putting your chips in the middle.
Yeah.
And you never have to worry about anything. Because even if it goes awry and in 2 or 3 years you got to cycle back down, you can look back and say, look at that banner up there.
Yeah, exactly.
That banner's here for the rest of time because we did it.
Yeah.
And we attempted another one. And
exactly.
we had a shot at another one.
And they do.
They smell blood like that. They're looking around the Eastern Conference. Both of those teams, they probably had meetings and were like, why not try to pick off another one this year?
Absolutely.
Who the hell are we afraid of right now? No one.
Nobody. Washington has been the pace car in the East. They've been a very good team. They've slowed down a little bit recently.
Yep.
That is not a team that is going to scare Tampa or Florida.
They could, but the likely scenario is if they meet one of those two teams you just mentioned, I think it would be a bloodbath, to be honest with you. I really do. As well as they played. I don't know why I say that. I just have that feeling. They squeaked in last year, and they just got crushed. I don't know. It's like they got the best record in the league. They don't scare too many. They don't scare me. I love the way they play, but I don't know. I just don't know if they scare anybody.
What it is we all go recency bias, including myself. We all do. I think you look at teams and go, Winnipeg Jets had an unbelievable season. You bring up the Winnipeg Jets, you're like,
they're going to overcome their demons.
Right. So you're looking at it and going, I believe what I'm looking at right now, but am I going to believe it? I'll only believe it because we've seen it. You just mentioned the Florida Panthers, we've seen. The Tampa Bay Lightning, we've seen them do it. We haven't seen Washington do it in a long time. Mm-hmm. What was that?
2018, yeah.
Okay. And Winnipeg has been to a conference final. That felt like...
That was 2018, I think, actually. Yeah, because it was Vegas. They met in the conference final, and Vegas lost to Washington that year.
So you're going like, that's been a while. So it's recency bias going, I love what the team's doing in the regular season, but show me in the playoffs. And that's really what it is.
Well, and that's why the GMs in Florida and in Tampa, they know what's coming from their players. They have a very good idea. And listen, they may face each other in the first round.
They might.
And that's the reality, too, is Tampa, I don't know if they're looking at Toronto and Washington and Carolina as much as they're looking at Florida and saying, we may face them in the first round. Again, it sets up for the Maple Leafs to snap. You got to win this division because you do not want to face one of these two teams in the first round. Doesn't mean that you can't beat them. Doesn't mean that at some point you won't have to beat them. But that 2 versus 3 in the Atlantic is a bloodbath every single year. It's every single year, and the other team is going to be sitting there likely waiting for you in the next round.
Yeah.
And like the idea of having to go through Tampa in the first round and Florida in the second round is just incredibly daunting. Like, I honestly, I can't think of a more difficult 2-round trek in the league. I would include, if you had to play Dallas in the first round, then Colorado in the second. I would say the Tampa-Florida connection would be more difficult, in my opinion. Vegas and whoever else, Edmonton or whatever, through 2 rounds. I don't think you can ask for a more difficult battle, round 1, round 2, if you got to play any combination of those 2 teams. So you got to avoid it. Right. But I think both Florida and Tampa are looking at this. Like, Florida went out and got Vanacek today, because they traded Spencer Knight, and I think they're looking at it saying we got to win the division here. Like, they think about it the same way. So if Bobrovsky's not playing, we can't mail in the games he's not playing.
Right.
He's not going to play all 20 down the stretch. We got to accumulate some points here, because it would be very beneficial to win the division.
And they've got cap space.
And they have space because Kachuk's on the long-term IR, and he's going to stay there.
Yeah.
And, Tampa, you look at it, now they're top 6 with Bjorkstrand here. They're going to have that top line of Gensel, Point, Kucherov, which is as good as any top line in the league, and a second line of Hagel, Cirelli, Bjorkstrand. That's a great top 6.
And Nick Paul's in the 3 hole.
And Nick Paul would maybe Yanni Gourde, maybe he's on the 4th line, but it could be Nick Paul, Yanni Gourde, and whatever else they decide to do on the 3rd line. Yeah. It's a very formidable top 9. McDonough's back. Yeah. I don't know how many people really pay attention to that, but McDonough's back with Hedman and Chernak, and Vasilevsky looks like 2020 Vasilevsky.
Yeah, he looks good. Like that.
Like Tampa's rocking right now.
Yeah, they're a good team. I watched them last night, and the one thing, like that trade, the Sergachev trade, they got that J.J. Moser. Now, Moser was injured early on. He's come back.
He's playing with Hedman
he's a good,
mostly.
He's a good defenseman.
Yep.
Skater, moves the puck. He's a left shot playing his offside, but he's a good defenseman. So they got a 4-pack there, that defensive core with Hedman, Moser, McDonough, Chernak. Like they're tough to play against.
If you play the role, you can start. Play the role of Brad Treliving.
Yes.
Your tree, and you see these deals by Florida and Tampa over the last 5 or 6 days. How do you respond to that?
I got to be honest with you guys, as much as I think there's like a hockey fan in everybody, your natural reaction would be, they're going to come over the top and trump all of it. But I think if you're just making decisions based on what other teams are doing, it can be a mistake. And just to respond, to say you have to do something and then you're going to really press on the gas and move the needle and throw more things all in just because of what 2 of the other teams have done, I think that's foolish, and I don't recommend that to anybody making transactions in the NHL. But you would almost have to think that they need to pull the trigger on something. But the other thing is they've got so many bodies around. Like, don't they got to get bodies out to kind of?
That's what Noodles was. Noodles had Doogie running the numbers before the show.
Before the show, I came in
40 forwards.
Well, no, they've 33 humans play in a Maple Leaf jersey this year.
And now, 1 alien.
Yeah, no, I'm saying I'm talking
33 humans and 1 alien played for the Leafs this year.
What do you mean 33? Like that's so many guys like up and down, or
33
that's so
different players have suited up for the Leafs this year.
At least 1 game, right? There was that Russian guy.
Rabankin played 7. Yanni Hakanpää played 2.
There was like people in and out. But so there was 4 goalies. So what I meant by that is, if you want to subtract the 4 goalies out of there's 29 people out, not goaltenders, that have played for the Maple Leafs. Now, there's been injuries, a lot, right? So that is the case. But I think they got too many bodies as well. So if you're going to go after, let's just say, let's get crazy and say, hey, let's call Seattle. Seattle's open for business. You want to get Tanev and Alexiak. I'm talking to Craig Button. He thinks that would be a nice fit, right?
Yep.
So you go after Tanev's brother, good skater, good penalty killer, hard to play against, and Alexiak's a monster on the back end. In case the other right shot monster, Hakanpää's
not playing.
So that guy's been a body, there.
You got to move pieces out.
You got to move pieces out, and you're going to have to pay a toll. It could be money in, money out. So my whole point with this,
before you continue, when you call somebody and you say, any interest in Yanni Hakanpää?
Well, you're just waving Yanni Hakanpää.
No,
okay.
Like we're talking waivers.
I'm talking.
Okay.
I think for a couple guys. Anyway.
Yeah, but you're talking. You've got a lot of players that kind of are similar in, the Dewars and guys like that. Holmberg's had a nice stretch. I don't know if he makes the playoff roster. He might be a player they covet. Ryan Reeves is a guy. You and I were talking off air. Like, he's a guy who's really spot duty. They've got a lot of bodies. So you've got to figure that out, because if you want to bring in 1, 2, 3 more bodies, somebody's got to go.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, you got too many players.
Yeah.
And that's the amazing thing about the Leafs is they have had all these different players play games, like over the course of the year. Now Calle Yarncroke has returned, and Jacob Quillen played a game, and Alex Nylander was playing earlier in the year, and Alex Steeves is coming and going. Now a lot of those guys again are going to be in the minors in the waiver exempt, but at some point you got to determine who are your 12 forwards, who are your 6D, who are your 2 goalies. You're dressing 18 guys. That's what you can do.
Right.
And what preceded this trade by Tampa is they put a couple guys on waivers.
Atkinson and Brown.
Yeah.
Right.
And that, I'm waiting for the Leafs. We're all waiting for the Leafs to do something, and they will do something.
Right.
Like, we don't have an answer on what they're going to do, but the fact they have not really made a waiver claim, they haven't made a trade, they haven't really done anything in terms of transactions all year. That's not a bad thing.
No.
Again, their depth has been tested and it's held up. Like, to their credit, they've had to run through. They've had a lot of injury issues, and they're sitting tied atop the division with 20 games to go.
Right.
But I think, you're onto something here. Like, if you're going to bring in 2, 3 guys, at least 2 or 3 have to go out the door, whether it's via waivers or possibly via trade. And you got to be reasonable with that. Nick Robertson is a guy that I'm sure teams would be willing to take on. Maybe Pontus Holmberg. He's still young and crafty. I don't know if, Max Pacioretty's not getting flipped.
Well, and
and Ryan Reeves isn't getting traded.
Yeah, Connor Dewar's not getting it done for Brandon.
No, Dewar's they'll be like, put him on waivers and maybe we'll claim
That's
him.
the interest.
But
The handful of guys that are almost in that same kind of pocket. They're either injured or they're not contributing, and they're literally what we just described. And it's not disrespecting. They're just their bodies there, they're going out there and they're playing every 5 games, and they're just. They're a guy there. They're a body.
Hence the word humans.
They're a human being.
We've had 33 humans.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of them are special humans and great, but my point being is that there's been 33 players, 29 not goaltenders. Mm-hmm. That's a lot of bodies, and you've got to sort it out. And if you continue and want to add to this group, which I believe Tree will, he's not going to sit on his hands. He's the most thorough, active general manager in the league, and you can talk to anybody.
Now that's making calls and stuff,
right?
But I don't think you can. You look at the 2 GMs down in Florida, man. It's tough to find guys who have made more. Like Julian Brisebois has made tons of trades.
You're right.
In Tampa, like Tree doesn't hold a candle to him in terms of actual transactions.
Pulling the trigger.
Yes, so great that he's calling a lot of guys, but that's not worth anything until you actually pull the
Hayes,
trigger.
To finish my thought,
I hear what you're saying.
To finish my thought on the reaction from the 2 other teams in Florida making their plays, which who knows if they're even done right now. The competitive side of me, because this is a competition, it's competitive, it's the National Hockey League, would want to say, I kind of want to come over the top and make a bigger splash than I intended. Because that's just competitiveness, I just said I don't advise that, but there would be some kind of competitor in me that would say, oh, okay, you want to do that? Maybe I'll go bigger than what I was planning to do. I don't know. It better be good though if you're going to do that. It
depends on what. Really, we can say and we can create the Joe from the Bridges, all of that, but the cost of doing business is what's going out the other way.
Let's put this deal on the table. The Leafs have their 2026, 2027 first round pick. Would you have made this deal if you were Brad Treliving? Does it
for Gourde and
Bjorkstrand?
Yanni Gourde at his point in his career.
That's the thing. Gourde, he's a UFA at the end of the year. He's been back for a game, but he is a winner and he's comfortable in Tampa. Bjorkstrand's a good player. He's a 50-point guy.
Yeah,
and he's got some term left. I think he's 28 or 29. He can play. Now, that's the complicated thing is I don't think Bjorkstrand makes sense for where the Leafs are at. I don't think they're not looking for a right shot, winger.
I think Tampa was looking for that right shot on the power play, that extra right shot somewhere out there on the power play.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
their second line right winger, it was Gergensons or something, has been playing that position. They were clearly looking at that, saying we got to upgrade.
Young kid there, Scheifele or whatever. He was going to go down in the lineup, but I.
It's a lot. It's asking a lot.
It's a lot, but. I always come back to this, and I know there's a formula when it comes to analytics and stuff, but in the end, right now, Auston Matthews is 27 years old, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Mitch Marner is what, 28?
27, yeah, they're like the same age.
William Nylander, 20. Like Morgan Riley's not getting younger. John Tavares is definitely not getting younger.
He's a dinosaur in NHL standards.
But he's having a fantastic year.
Yes.
So this is the group that you have. We all know the capabilities. I feel like this is the window. Like this is their window.
And the East being what it is.
The East being what it is.
Florida and Tampa are good teams.
They're very good teams. And Carolina and, there's other teams.
Jersey's in trouble. Like it sounds like this Jack Hughes could be.
That's a big injury.
Like seriously injured.
Yeah. But
that's trouble. They're not going anywhere with
without him. But in the end, right now, like you have to continue to push in. You can't just go, okay, protecting the future, because the future is uncertain. Mitch Marner doesn't have a contract for next year.
Mm-hmm.
He could have the best playoff season, love it, help this team to go deep into the playoffs, and decide I need a change. Like this team's going to potentially look a lot different next year.
Yep.
And it may be for the good, it may not be for the good. I look at it, if there is something that makes sense for Tree and his management group, 100% you got to do it. And the prices are not going down as we approach the deadline. You're going to overpay for somebody.
That's what kind of sticks out about this. Like they got two guys here. Yanni Gourde they're familiar with. He was there for the two cups. And again, Bjorkstrand's a good player, like a second line winger with some term. You're going to have to pay for that. Right. But 2 first-rounders and a second that's expensive, right?
And Esamok
goes the other way. He was a young player, and I think they got a 5th or something. That's a throw-in.
Dude,
but
that's a haul.
It's man. A lot. It's a lot, man. It's a lot. And now
to answer the question, I would not be paying that for those 2 players.
It's a lot. It's a lot of currency to go out. Now, I do wonder if what Ron Francis in Seattle just did was trigger other teams that are on the border saying we got to sell.
Right.
Like if that's what the prices are, it's clearly a seller's market. We got to sell because if that's what those 2 guys are going to get, what is Brock Besser going to return? What is Brock Nelson going to get in return? What is maybe Braden Shen if he's available going to get in return?
O'Reilly, like all of these.
I mean there's the one in Nashville. Like they beat Boston last night, but you have O'Reilly and you like him and you committed to him and he committed to you. But where do you think you're really going? And if you can get a big haul and reset, I can't picture a scenario how Nashville can convince themselves they should just keep everybody. Like it just
when
seems
a guy
kinda
says,
crazy,
look,
but
I think Ryan O'Reilly has no trade protection, if I'm correct. Like I think he has no
he doesn't.
Trade protection.
No, I don't believe he does.
Yeah, but imagine this guy. It's only his 2nd year there as a free agent, where he's like, they're going to finish up here, and this is great. And then the 2nd year, you go to him and say, hey, man, you want to just get out of here.
Does he have a 4-year deal? So
he's got this and 2 more, I believe, at $4.5 million.
That's tough business, man. And I know it's tough business either way, and there's no loyalty. We've discussed it a lot. But in year 2, to go to him and say, you want to just take your check and get on out of here?
I know.
So let me ask you guys this. This is more of, we don't have the answer, but I want your opinion on it. Ryan O'Reilly could have stayed here. By all accounts, correct?
Yeah,
in free agency.
It's been reported that the Leafs definitely tried to keep him and were willing to keep. I don't know what they put on the table for him, but
I don't even know if the numbers were the same, the term or whatever. Like, if you want him back, there's maybe no guarantee that he wants to come back here. He played here, and he had an opportunity, I believe, to stay here and chose to move on. Now, that might have been a different scenario. Again, it could be money, it could be term or whatever.
No, that's important to point out,
It is important to point out. Like, he deserves the respect from Nashville to go, hey, we are going to move you. These are the teams that are calling. You help us with the process. But
unless one team is willing to overpay the most, then if you're Barry Trotz, you've got a resposibility to your owner and your fans and your team.
Yeah, I agree.
So the Leafs are in Vegas tonight. I'm just seeing this Josh Cloak tweeting out Auston Matthews. I don't know if maybe we can find the video and audio. We can play it later. Why don't I read this quote? I just saw it online. Asked about, the Leafs making moves here and if he wants to see a boost. We have it? We have like the audio and the video and everything? Okay, let's play it. Here's Auston Matthews speaking on, this is everything falling into place here. This is great.
Great.
Matthews on whether or not he wants to see his team get a boost before the trade deadline.
You look at our division in particular, it's obviously very tight, and we know management's going to do the best that they can. I think all we can do is just trust in them. I mean, of course, you'd love to see a boost. I think with the way that we've played this year and the position that we're in right now, I mean, we feel really confident, really good about our team and our group. But this time of year, obviously, it's always you see teams adding, and you want to add as well. So I'm sure the management and staff and stuff are doing a lot of thinking right now, doing a lot of homework and stuff like that, and we'll just leave it in their hands. I'm sure they'll do what's best for the team.
Okay, what do we make of that?
I think it's
How
great.
do you interpret that?
I know what you're saying. That's him screaming, going, "Go get me playing."
I think that's as close to Auston Matthews basically mic dropping, saying snap out of it and make a move here.
I don't think it's snap out of it.
You know him. He is as cool, calm, and collected. Like the whole world could be spontaneously combusting. He'd be like, it's getting a little hot around here. Like he's not a guy that's ever going to be forthright or over the top.
It's one of two things. We've played well enough this year where we think that our management team should support us with adding, or there's no way in hell, as we're constructed right now, we're good enough to win, so they better do something.
Which one do you think it is? Which one do you think is more likely?
I think it's the first message.
Okay, so
you think it's the second. You think it's the second. Yes, you do, dude.
I don't. I will say I think the fact, like he's been in the Atlantic Division his whole life,
right,
his whole career. And when you look at it, like we referenced Washington, I think it was in 18. That was the last time a team from the Metro went to the Cup final. It was Boston in 19, and then 2020 was Tampa, 21 Tampa, 22 Tampa, 23 Florida, 24 Florida.
Yeah.
So this guy's been watching Boston, Tampa, and Florida go to the Cup final for the last 6 years, 6 of the 8 years of his career. This is year 9 for him. So the fact that he's referencing the division is, I think, him saying, "Yeah, we like where we're at. They should, but they're getting help down there, and they've won before. I haven't won a thing. We could use some help too." That doesn't have to be a negative. It's just a fact. When you always say skin in the game. The guy's the captain and a veteran. I don't think he's too worried about a second round pick in 2026.
We all sit there, whether you're sitting on that team or not. You're going, well, that team got better. That team got today. Tampa is better than they were yesterday. Same thing with the Florida Panthers. Yes, Vanacek may never play a game for them in the playoffs, but they at least added, Seth Jones. I watched him the other night. He looked all right.
He can still skate for his size.
Big guy. I mean, what they did is they traded for him. Yes, he's a $7 million defenseman, not a 9.5 anymore. And Ekblad is unrestricted. If they don't get
and he's out of Chicago,
right?
Like anyone, you put anybody in Chicago, and it's like you put McDavid on Chicago. You're like, what's wrong with this guy? Like he's not. You're
right.
And that's what they're hoping. They're putting him in an environment where it's like, oh, this is what winning is. This is what competition is.
Yeah.
And this is what's expected of me being a Florida Panther, as opposed to his comments after that Utah game where he's like, we're no better than we were at the beginning of we stink.
Yeah, that's what they're banking on. All right, Mark Scheifele will join us in about 7 or 8 minutes. Darren Dreger just tweeting out, Carolina basically canvassed the league this week, gauging level of interest in Mikko Rantanen.
Yeah. Oh, my God.
So
I find that to be insane-o world.
Okay.
I mean,
that's
didn't we
an improvement over Bjorkstrand and Seth Jones. You bring Mikko to town.
But did we not, wasn't it being reported by the insiders that Rantanen's camp was going to let Carolina know where
this
they're
week,
at?
if they're willing to sign, really give you an answer that they're going to sign.
So
maybe they got their answer.
You got to do your homework. You got to figure that out.
Guys, I'm sorry. That is so amateur hour to go and pick that player up and not have any idea that he's going to re-sign or not, or what numbers would be. How on earth do you pull the trigger on that? I mean, maybe there's something I'm missing here, but I think that is incompetence and lunacy to pull the trigger on that trade. And I know that Natchez has been in and out of favor, but in him and Drury go out the door, you better have something in place to keep that guy.
Yeah, unless they feel that the cap space is what they're going to do, and they'll go big game hunting.
But what are you going to get for Rantanen in the second trade in a month and a half?
And he's been awful since he got there. That's the facts.
But it's still Rantanen.
No, I know. But if you're Carolina, you're not asking for futures, probably, right? Like who is? I'm just trying to think of a team on the fly that would
Patterson.
have. Yeah. Although that's
So
a weird
Van's
one in
gonna get
Vancouver.
Van's gonna
I'm
get
just-
ranted
I know
in
what you're
and
saying.
lose
I know
it.
what you're saying.
I'm just spitballing here. You said on the fly. I'm like, okay, who fits the financial dynamic? That's 11 and 9 or whatever. Who's a top tier player? Neither one of them are playing to their capabilities right now. Am I off on
I hear
that?
what you're saying. Now, the thing is that carries over to Vancouver. Like, do you think you can sign him? Do you think you can keep him long term? And I don't know if is Rantanen going to give him that answer? If he told Carolina I'm going to free agency, if he did that,
Here's
I don't
the thing.
know.
Now again, I'm getting.
But then you get out from underneath Pettersson at
That's
the same
conspiracy
time.
theory.
If that's your play,
if you're going to move away, you get 11-6 off your books, and if Rantanen doesn't re-sign there, you go back, you reset again, and use that money.
I hope he gets traded just because I think it would be awesome to talk about a guy of that status being traded twice in 2 months.
Am I the only
of.
guy that thinks that's amateur acquiring?
I
that
hear
player?
what you're saying. I don't disagree. I don't think he's going to get dealt to. I feel like Carolina's just cooler heads will prevail, and they'll just say, "We got him. We're going to play it out. And we'll see what happens."
Listen,
But-
he hasn't played well enough, but the thing is he's a top tier player, and I think he's got to settle in there. But Carolina has to do their due diligence in flipping that, and if they move him again, then
Who goes to get him?
Moving
That is the
and shaking.
question. Who goes to get Mikko Rantanen? Maybe the Winnipeg Jets. Maybe the Jets. Mark Scheifele's coming up, and we haven't caught up with Mark in a while. And the Jets now they've lost a couple
they've
games
lost
in a
3
row,
in a row, and
few in a row, but they're still in the driver's seat in that division.
very good
significantly.
team. But it's Scheifele's had an unbelievable season. You look at the two guys that committed to that team last year, Scheifele and Hellebuyck.
Huge.
Unbelievable they've played.
Kept everything together there, and now they've been the best team in the league all year. So Mark's coming up. We've got Darren Dreger will join us just after 5 o'clock. We got the Leafs in action in Vegas tonight. Oh, you're on the panel tonight. I had a brutal sleep last night, and the first thing I thought of this morning is how am I going to get through this game tonight? I'm aging rapidly. Bad sleep. Kids
Take a
had a
nap
bad
after-
sleep.
take a nap.
Bad sleep.
I'll shut it down tonight.
I've got to
I
I'll
just
shut it
sent a
down.
text message to Duthie saying, "Don't expect much from me tonight." I got an email. That's a negative.
Don't expect much from me,
Dude,
tonight.
I
I've got that
closed
text.
my eyes last night at 8:57.
Yeah.
Okay. I got an email today, and this is as soon as I sent the message to Duthie. It said puck drop tonight's at 10:22. Basically 50 minutes of a pregame show, and I literally started sweating. And you want to talk about an underpants cam? I'm like, how am I going to do this?
Van de
I don't know
Velde.
how I'm going to do it.
You are Jean Van de Velde on the pregame
Take
tonight.
a nap. You go to
I'm going to shut her down before the game.
Lay
and I'll
down
be ready
with your
to rock.
kids.
That's,
Fall
I
asleep.
don't
you know
think
what's
you're going to
coming.
make
You know
it through the
what's coming.
game, Hayes. I do not think you make it as
All right.
just a viewer
he's
through
going
the
to be
game.
Pete Rose.
I know.
tonight.
I'm worried about you. Please wear a bow tie tonight. I need you in a bow tie on the panel, and I need you to fall asleep.
Pete Rose on the end
Did you
of
see the
panel.
one guy? There was Trump was doing the State of the Union, and they went to one guy, and this old guy was out like a light. He was so tired, he was asleep. It was amazing.
See if we can
last
get to
night.
visit Pete Rose, basically
passed out on the
comatose.
Okay,
on
I
the
need you
desk.
I need you in a bow tie tonight, asleep like Pete Rose. All right, Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. All right, Leafs in action tonight in Vegas. This will be big boy hockey tonight, man. We're closing in on the trade deadline. There's already a bunch of moves happening around the NHL, and we've talked about Winnipeg a ton this year, and it's just been basically 100% positive when you talk about the Jets. They start their season 15-1. Recently, they had won 11 in a row. They've been the top team in the West all year. Just everything's been so perfect out there.
It's like how the overdrive of Winnipeg. Like, what are they
it's
talking about
nothing
every
but
day?
positivity every day.
I don't think it would be that good of like radio television to have a season that good. It would just be like,
Yeah, they want to
yeah, they played great again last night. And the other guy would go, yeah, they were awesome.
That was good stuff.
Goalie was great. Scheifele was great. Defense was great.
Let's play some audio and get out of here. Well, here's a guy that's been leading the charge. He's got 34 goals on the season, 68 points. Here's Mark Scheifele. How you doing, Mark?
I'm good. How are you guys doing?
We're doing very well. I mean, we've enjoyed watching you and talking about you. What's it like to live it? You guys have had such a great season this year.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. Great group of guys. We've just kind of taken it game by game, and obviously the last 3 haven't gone as planned. But it's been a really fun year. A really fun group of guys. So it's been a real treat.
Yeah, and you guys had to transition a little bit, bringing in a new head coach, and Scott Arniel, who's a guy that you were familiar with, and you've been within the organization. But how much impact do you think he's had on those positive vibes you've had and the wins that you guys have accumulated this year?
Yeah, for sure. I think the nice thing is that obviously he was a part of our coaching staff, so obviously had a lot of good relationships with him, and then of course Bones had had to step away from the team for a little bit, so we had him as a head coach. So it was like a little bit of a seamless transition. Obviously he's tweaked some things and changed some things, and it's a different voice than Bones was, but he's been great. He's pushed us to try to be our best every single night, and he's been awesome.
So what's the level of comfort when you go into a game and you look back there and the goaltender standing there and plays every night and he plays that well?
Helly is amazing. He is an absolute fantastic goaltender. He's been amazing all season, and obviously when you have that confidence, with your goaltenders, Eric Comrie, plays a lot of back-to-backs, but he's been playing amazing for us too, and when he's in the pipe. So honestly, our goaltending in general has been incredible. We know the confidence that we have with our goaltenders, that they bring it every single night, and to have that confidence that your goaltenders are playing as well as they are is a huge boost to the team's confidence.
Scheif, we've talked about your team with the trade deadline coming up, where I guess when you've had a season like you have, you expected to be in the mix, and your management team to kind of do whatever they can to supplement the group and have your best chance in the playoffs. Is there a danger of kind of wanting too much and messing with the mix, or are you guys we better be all in the next couple of days here?
I know for me, I know a lot of the other guys, it's, obviously, we've had a great year. We have a great group of guys, and you kind of just put that into management's hands and trust in their vision for the team. And, all you can do as players is just go and play and give it your all and try to win as many games as you can. So, obviously we're very confident with our group of guys, confident in our team and our coaching staff, and kind of whatever happens.
So we talk about you a lot. We talk about the goaltender a lot, but we talk about Kyle Connor a lot, but as being a very underrated, underappreciated, really superstar, kind of hidden. Do you guys feel that way? I mean, do you feel that way? Do you feel like he gets enough love, throughout Canada? I mean, there's so many top tier players, but it feels like he slides through the cracks a little bit. How do you feel about that?
With our group of guys, he's definitely not underappreciated or overlooked. We as a group know how good Casey is, and me personally, I know what a pleasure it is to play with him. Each and every night, he's absolutely fantastic. He works so hard on and off the ice. He's so dialed in. Unbelievable shot, skates. He does everything, and I've been lucky enough to play with him for as long as I have, and I absolutely love playing with him, and excited to continue to play with him.
With Mark Scheifele of the Winnipeg Jets. So you set a team record recently, passing Ilya Kovalchuk for most goals in franchise history, but it's such a weird record book because it's Atlanta as opposed to the original Winnipeg Jets, and obviously Dale Hawerchuk sits atop that in terms of, Jets 1.0 and your connection to him when he was up in Barrie with you. And you paid homage, obviously, to passing Kovalchuk, but I believe you referenced, there's another guy and another number that you got your eyes set on. What is that going to be like, when you get a chance to kind of catch up to Dale Hawerchuk and really set the record straight in terms of Winnipeg sports, the most goals ever scored by a Winnipeg Jet?
Yeah, obviously the connection with Dale, obviously I wish he was still with us. So I could be giving it back to him, or he could be giving it back to me. That I gotta catch him. But obviously it means a lot. Obviously an honor to obviously pass Kovalchuk. What a fantastic player in our league, and obviously chasing down Dale. He was such a amazing player. Such a amazing guy in the community of Winnipeg, and obviously big reason why I'm a Winnipeg Jet, and got selected by them, and it's obviously a tremendous honor, and I'm just thankful to the Winnipeg Jets for trusting me, 14 years ago and drafting me, and giving me the opportunity to become the player I am. So, obviously, just tremendously honored.
So we were joking around with O-Dog, who has to be on the panel tonight, and the puck drop is at 10:22 Eastern, and he's Pete Rose and going to fall asleep on the panel, we believe, tonight. But I wanted for you to share basically how the body clock gets messed up a little bit with the time zone. So say you guys go out and play in San Jose, and that's a 7:30 local start. I mean, does that mess with you a little bit, or how do you feel, or do you change your routine during that day?
That's the thing. You try to obviously get on the time zone, but then at the same time, if you're playing a bunch of games, you just want to get as much sleep as possible. So you kind of have to play that. You kind of have to find that fine line of how much is when do I go to sleep? What's the best course of action? I know a trip this year. We started in St. Louis and then we went to Seattle. So 2 hours behind. And then went to Calgary, and then back to the Central, and then played one game at home, and then out to the East Coast for another road trip. So we were on in every time zone in 7 days. So at that time, you're not even thinking about the time zone. You're literally just thinking about when can I sleep, how long can I sleep, and then how much coffee can I get before the game.
Scheif, I know you're in tune with everything. You got some crazy Gary Robertson. You exhaust every option into being your best. What are the pregame? Is it still pregame meals where guys sit down and have a mound of pasta with meat sauce and chicken, or are pregame meals different now?
I think they're a little different. There are still guys that will do that.
What do you do?
I'm usually I go a little bit of rice, chicken, some potatoes, usually vegetables, broccoli or carrots or peas, and then not peas, beans, green beans, with a salad is usually my go-to on a game day. But obviously, I try to change it around a little bit. Usually, it consists of the same stuff, but just done in a different way, just so I'm not just eating the same monotonous meal every game day. But it is pretty thought out, and then it always changes a little bit too, based on how I'm feeling. If I've been eating the same thing, sometimes I just want to change it up a little bit, just for my brain to get a break from it. But it's always a work in progress.
With Mark Scheifele, and I'm sure you kind of set the tone on that when you started your career in Barrie with the Barrie Colts, and I'm sure you're aware of this. The OHL is putting together a first and second team all-century team for all of the OHL teams, and the Colts revealed theirs a couple of days ago. And Mark, of course, you're in the first line. Brian Little, Andrew Mangiapane, Aaron Ekblad, Brant Clark, Mackenzie Blackwood, Oza Guelph, Storm alumni. I haven't seen their top 25. I'm sure Doughty will be on it. Who else will be on that? Callahan, probably a couple of guys. But I don't know if you can touch that. I mean, do you want to speak to your OHL alumni? And the fact that this Colts top line, man, I don't think anyone in the OHL can top it.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Obviously, I was so lucky to have Dale as my coach there. The Barrie Colts were fantastic to me, and obviously got a chance to play with Brian Little, who is an absolutely fantastic player and a guy that I learned so much from. And it's crazy to think about. Mackenzie Blackwood. He was our third goalie my last year in junior, and he was the guy that was just out there taking shots and playing two puck and taking breakaways, and all of a sudden he's a starting goalie for the Avalanche now. So when you look back, that long ago, and then you see it now, it's pretty cool to see, and it's making me feel old because that was 13 years ago. So that's pretty wild.
Yeah, 15 years ago when you broke in.
How long is the list for the Barrie Colts where Bryan Hayes' name is on that? Didn't you take a slap shot off of Brian Finley's face?
Finley's head, yeah. I hit Finner in the head in a warm-up his first game back, and I almost got cut on the spot. You'd have to go thousands of teams deep.
Team 1200.
Team 1200. I'd be somewhere on the second list of that team. But, yeah. What a town, man. Even the second team Colts, man. Svechnikov's on there. Rasmus Anderson, your boy Noodles, yeah. He's on there.
Hell of a player.
I mean, you're awfully quiet. I don't see any Guelph Storm love. Not a lot of people buzzing about the Storm alumni.
Well, pump out the list. I don't know. I'll probably get screwed out of it.
Well, you're not on it. You played in the 90s. You're too old. It's just from the 2000s on, man. You're not on that list.
Oh, God, I'm not even interested in that.
It doesn't matter
I was
anymore.
getting ready to puff out my chest when the Storm got announced, but I'm not even going to be on it.
No, you won't be on it. No chance. Anyway, Mark, we appreciate you doing this. What's your plan on Friday with the trade deadline? Like, are you tracking your phone, or you're waiting for Cheveldayoff to come down and talk to the guys? Like, what is it like being in the NHL on a day like that?
Honestly, we're on the back half of back-to-back that day, so obviously you'll be paying attention. But we play Philly tomorrow and then Jersey the next day, so probably wake up, probably try to sleep in as much as you can and wake up to seeing a bunch of things happening, and then try to sleep some more. So I feel like other years we haven't played on the trade deadline day, and you watch it a little more. But obviously having a game to play, there's probably going to be a little less attention on it.
For sure. Well, good luck between now and then and down the stretch into the playoffs. It's been truly an awesome season watching you guys and tracking you guys, and you're having a great year individually too. So keep that up. We're tracking you guys, and thank you for doing this today.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
You got it. There's Mark Scheifele. It was good Southern Ontario boy, Mark Scheifele.
He is.
Kitchener.
And how about
Kitchener
this?
guy.
I didn't want to follow up, but I'd be like, is there somebody, like, he's very disciplined. He is like a Gary Roberts, but there's got to be somebody on that team that goes for 4 cookies.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I would honestly doubt they have noodles. Do you remember our buffets? There would be a tub of ice cream.
There was ice cream, chocolate sauce, cookies.
Yes, chocolate
Pierre
sauce.
Turgeon, remember Hall of Famer Pierre Turgeon would wrap 7 cookies in a napkin and walk away up to his room.
I love it.
I don't know what he would do with them.
I got an idea
Well,
what
I
he was
know.
doing with it.
You'd bury them as soon as you lie down in bed.
Exactly.
And he was in unbelievable shape.
The pregame meal stuff is funny, too, how, like, it was just accepted you eat so much pasta back in the day. That was just like,
Dude.
that was what you were supposed to do. And what was the science behind that?
Dude,
Carbs.
I was so hungry. I would mound. I called it mounding on my plate. Like, you couldn't put any more pasta on my plate with a meat sauce, and then I would grab a couple breasts of chicken on a bone and slice them up and dice them and put them on top of the pasta. And I look forward. It was like the best meal of my life every time.
Yeah.
It is. It is. The best part about the pre-games is the trainers will beat you there sometimes. Like there are people around the team that there's a stampede for that. It's not.
They're looking to strap on a feed too.
People
like
will
if
just-
you don't have to go on the ice, you can feed, man.
Yeah. Like if there's an optional and nobody skates, that room is full. All of a sudden there's scouts that on the road, they're
Right.
eating in there. Like it is just a smorgasbord.
I don't think the average person understands when you eat. Like, you're not eating at 6 o'clock.
You're eating at 12:30.
Right.
1 o'clock
Like,
latest.
you talk about a growl after the game. You get an hour post game, you are so hungry.
Yeah.
Like, if you haven't eaten a real meal in like 10 hours and you just played a sport.
But you have the pregame at, we'll call it 12:30 to 1. And then there's a snack at 4 o'clock before
Sure.
the
Oh, yeah.
bus.
But you're
You got
not
to
like,
wheel back down there and get 2 pieces of toast, peanut butter, banana, and then bury 2 cookies on the way to the rink.
okay, well, that I like to hear.
And then you get to the rink.
That's good to hear.
And you eat a power bar and then some Red Bulls and Sudafeds or whatever you're taking.
I love the Sudafeds. That's every guy thought he had I'm going to be flying tonight off Sudafeds. Jack Hughes, breaking news. Jack Hughes has undergone season-ending surgery. He's done for the year.
Crazy.
Crazy, man. Placed on long-term IR. Eichel, I mean, it was a play at the back post, but that's why Keefe was going nuts, because he thought it should have
was.
been at least a 2-minute penalty.
Yeah, it looked like incidental contact, and I talked about that danger zone where it's like if you go into the boards, heading into the boards in that area, it's trouble.
Yeah.
But I don't think Jack Eichel would. His own teammate from the U.S. would say, "I'm going to bury this guy into the boards."
No, it wasn't nefarious or anything, but it got him, and he's done. And now you ask the question, does New Jersey, do they have a chance now? That more coming up. Darren Dreger in 15 minutes. What are the Leafs doing? When is it going to happen, if it's going to happen at all? Mikko Rantanen, is he on the table right now? That more still to come. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. Overdrive continues, powered by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. So today there's been a lot of action in the league, in the NHL. And we haven't really talked about last night. And like the Oilers getting pumped, and people writing us. Struddy's on today. Struddy's coming up at 6. We will talk to him. They got pumped by Anaheim last night at home. And it's a weird scene out there with the Oilers. So we'll touch on that. Jacoby Walter, rookie. This is where it's so complicated for the Raptors because they're drawing up a play for a rookie, probably thinking
makes it.
He might miss that.
Yeah.
Like, hey, he's probably going to miss it. Hey, Jacoby, we love you, man. We're going to draw you up this 3-point play buzzer. Oh, my God, he hit it. And they win the game, and they win both in Orlando.
Didn't they have substitutions where it was like,
oh, yeah.
Rookies,
it was like
young
Scotty's on the bench.
They're trying to lose that game, and
yeah, it's basically like you see like Scotty Barnes is cheerleader.
Yeah,
well,
wearing a
Jacoby
tracksuit,
Walter,
like he's got his tracksuit on.
Yeah, because those are big league players, man. You can't tell them to go out there and stink the joint out.
Oh,
like
that's
this is
it.
not. Yeah,
and he's a first round pick. That's a guy you have faith in your future. So I guess it is a win-win when you look at it that way. You drew it up, and he rose to the moment. Good for him. He's a young kid in the league trying to find his way. He got the start last night with Grady Dick injured. Awesome. Good story. The flip side of it is, well, what are we doing here? But they got a weak schedule. They're going to win. They're going to win games. They're going to catch Philly. They're going to pass Brooklyn. That's my guess. And they'll probably end up picking 9th or something. That's probably what's going to happen, which stinks. It's a brutal position to be in, but that's just the reality. That's where they are. All right, hour 2 coming up. Darren Dreger will join us. Leafs in action tonight. Jack Hughes done for the year. Lots to get into between now and the trade deadline. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4.